Guys, hey, my name is Chris. I work for Sherwin-Williams. We had sold you guys a 440 about a year ago. Mike had said he's been having some problems with pumps. I guess first and foremost, what I would say is, just so you know, a 440 impact expectation with this pump is rated to do about 50 gallons a week times 52 weeks in a year, okay? So do the math, 40 to 50 gallons times 52. Now, there's other pumps that you guys have in there, which I would be categorized as homeowner pumps. You could use them. I haven't even looked at those to get them working because I think, truthfully, those pumps that you have back there are not rated anywhere close to do what you need them to do. Meaning they'll spray paint, but they're going to struggle to spray heavy solvent-based products. And even with that being said, this pump, which is a great pump, is going to spray paint no problem. It'll spray your solvent-based products no problem. But the reality is you have to clean them and take care of this more often than when you go with bigger units that have bigger pistons. Now, one thing I want you to understand with this 440 is, whenever you use this pump, two things I would always keep in mind. When you get done spraying with the pump, if we're done with the project, meaning the job is done and now we get to go back to the shop and Mike's giving us a plan of what we're doing the next day, I would always remember, I need to clean the pump up. So if I spray Promar 200, a water-based paint through it, that's the last thing I push through it, right away I got to think, okay, when I get to the shop, same day, I'm going to flush water through it to get the water out of the pump. And then after I'm done flushing water, my next question is, am I going to use that pump the next day? Am I going to use it 2 days later? Or am I going to use it 2 to 3 weeks later? If the question is asked, when am I using that pump next? I'm not against you guys flushing water through the pump if the last thing you sprayed was water-based paint, flush water. But if that pump is going to sit in the shop for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 20 days, you can't let water just sit in the lines. Okay? My thought process then is we need to flush a solvent through that line. The solvent can sit in the line. Solvents do one thing most importantly. It keeps all your metal that this pump is made out of lubricated. Okay? First and foremost. Water-based, if it's sitting in the pump, is going to cause that pump to slowly cause the metal to kind of rust. And then when you start to get oxidation of the metal and you start to see rust, internally you're not going to see it. The water falls down through the piston on two little balls that create pressure. If those balls have any kind of calcium buildup or any kind of rust particles, they're going to stick. And then your pump can't create pressure, which means it's no good for you because it's not going to work. So what I want to do right now is, remember, we're flushing the pump. I got this pump today, looked at it. It wasn't creating pressure. So what we did was, I took a hammer. As you can see here, a hammer is always a good friend of yours. Your two balls, generally, on this pump, you have one ball that sits here, you have one ball that sits down here, okay? So they're right in this range. Typically, what I would do is, if the pump isn't creating pressure and you try to spray and it won't build up pressure in the lines, that tells me right away your balls are sticking, which means then, did you let water sit in the lines, and when was the last time you used this pump? Pumps work better when they're used like crazy. Just like a car, the more you drive it, the better it is. The shorter the distances, the bigger the issue you have with your engine. So I would tell you, if you're not spraying all the time, I get that. It is what it is. Then practically we run thinner through it. I don't need to hit this, but typically I would be hitting here, and I might hit down here, and I mean, give it a good tap a couple times. A good tap down here. All right. Now, the balls are moving because we got them moving. My thoughts are now, all right, we just got done spraying Promar 200. I got a 5-gallon bucket of water here. All right, so now my thoughts are, here's my suction set. Here's your suction set. Typically, I like to keep this, I don't like to have it all the way tight. I like to have it a little loose. One thing I like to do too is to keep this clean. I'll go to Sherwin-Williams and I'll buy kind of like a strainer bag. Some guys call them pantyhose, we call them strainer bags. they'll put a strainer bag over the top and then duct tape this. Okay, so what that does is it keeps this thing really clean. So you got another inlet that paint can't build up here. And I don't tighten it all the way because I like to have a little forgiveness at the bottom of the 5. So I'll have it kind of like that with a strainer bag over the top. Then I put it over my suction tube, and I do that when I spray. Now, I have paint thinner in this bucket, so generally if this was an empty 5er, I would have this here. For now, I'm going to have this in prime, and we're going to see water running through it. So I'm going to turn it on. If you look here, it's siphoning water coming through the suction out here, right? So now, right now, we're siphoning water through it, okay? If I see clean water, that's a good thing. So if this was an empty bucket, I'd watch the water come from here and watch my paint, and I'd want that to siphon through so I see clean water. We know there's clean water. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the pressure this way, lower the pressure down, then I'm going to click to spray. Anytime I do that, if you look down here, I just click to spray on this bottom corner here. Typically, the reason we lower the pressure is because we don't want to jam all that pressure from the other side. Okay, because there's 3,000 pounds of pressure. I'm going to crank this up. Now watch as the piston starts to create pressure in the line. Okay, I don't have a tip in this pump right now. Typically, if I was spraying, one, I would never put my hand in front of here because you inject yourself. But if your tip fits in here, now if I spray, you're going to have a pressure release. Okay, watch. That's a lot of pressure. Now, I'm just going to keep this running for now to watch water come out of it. All right? It's running out of it. If I had a tip in here, you'd actually have a consistent pressure gauge built up. I'm going to lower the pressure at the gun because we see clean water coming out. Okay, now watch. Okay, water's coming out. I'm lowering the pressure. Again, I don't want to have this pump in full pressure and then click to spray. You don't want to do that. I see painters do that all the time. So always lower the pressure at the pump before you click back to prime. Okay? Otherwise, if you have it in full pressure, and let's say you're at 2,000 pounds of pressure, and you move it to spray, what's going to happen is this pump right here acts as like a dump valve for pressure. Where do you think that 2,000 pounds of pressure goes? It goes in the pump, acts as a back gauge, and then basically you're probably going to have to repack the pump, which is not a cheap investment. So if you do the smart thing, which is lower the pressure at the pump, we're lowering the pressure, got my hand on the trigger, now we click it back to prime, then crank the pressure back up. You got air bubbles? Awesome. Alright, now I'm going to lower the pressure here. Okay, so now this is clean, this is clean, but we're not done. What we need to do, remember, I'm not going to do it today. You got a filter in here that you need to pull. There's a filter in here. This is pretty easy to get out. Basically, pull this, you pull this out, and then you can unturn this. Okay, filter's in here. I'm not going to do it now because that, and then there's a filter down here. If you look at the bottom, filter down here. Both these are clean because I pulled them both out earlier before we did this video. So this filter you should always pull out. That filter you should pull out. They're not hard to pull out. You can do it with a wrench. That you can do with your hand. Now, we're done. We funneled water through it. Now, I'd say, I'm not using this pump for 3 weeks. Maybe a month. I don't have a job. I have other stuff I need you guys to do. All right, so now we're going to store it. You got two options. You can run water and go to Sherwin-Williams and buy a product. Graco makes it. It's called Pump Armor. If you have this much water in a bucket, I would probably add 3 to 4 ounces of the blue liquid in that pump. It's like an antifreeze. That can sit in the lines lubricated in your pump for a year if you don't use it. And your pump will work. No questions asked. Same thing, I would turn it on, siphon that through. We don't have the Pump Armor here, so what we're going to do is I'm going to use paint thinner. Paint thinner is generally what most painters use. It keeps everything lubricated. Mike can decide what the cost factor is of what's more beneficial for his business. I like paint thinner because I just think I like the fact that everything's lubricated. You guys can get this for a good deal at Sherwin-Williams. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this back on, except this time I know I got water through here. and I'm gonna let it suck. Let me see if this is water that's coming through. That's paint thinner. All right. So I got paint thinner siphoning through, keeping in my lines lubricated. All right. Now we're gonna basically turn it down lower. Okay. I'm gonna click it to spray mode. Crank the pressure back up. Alright, that's oil. Now I have thinner in all my lines. Okay? So we just built up 3,000 pounds of pressure. I'm not gonna stick my hand in front of here, but if I had a tip in, okay, we're just gonna lower the pressure at the gun. This means I'm going like this to lower it. No pressure in the lines, but we have thinner in here. Everything's lubricated. Basically, that's it. Now, turn the pump. I'll basically click it back to prime. Okay, ready to start spraying. Lower the pressure again. Turn off, put it away. That's basically it, guys. If you want me to meet you again to go over this, I can. I don't have a problem. You know, any questions, just call me. My phone number is 414-975-6147. All right, talk to you guys soon.